Hey everyone, welcome to the studio. Bit of a different video for you today. Today we're just going to hang a little bit and talk about Nazgul Gauntlets. What? I hear you say. Yeah, it's just going to be a bit of an informal chat. We're going to sit and hang for a little bit and yeah, talk about these guys. Now these guys are gauntlets that I have made. I do apologise if you are a regular follower of the channel. There's not a build video as such for these. I was in a bit of a con crunch, so I just decided to go ahead with these without filming because filming takes up a lot of time. I was crunching a little bit to try and get these done. Turns out the costume wasn't able to be completed, so it's kind of crunching for nothing really. But yeah, I thought I'd show these off to you guys and just talk you through them a little bit and we'll talk about them. So yeah, let's hang. So these are the gauntlets which are going to be for my Nazgul costume. Now, in terms of the Nazgul gauntlets, there are a couple of different types. Most of the Ringwraiths wear a set different to this. It's slightly different, it's slightly less ornate, and has a bit of a different back section here, not as many spikes. This style is the style of the Witchking. I like these a lot better, and that's why I decided to make them, because this design here is much more appealing to me. It's got a much more sort of decorative design in the handplate area, and it's just overall more spiky. The knuckles here have more spikes on them, and this back section I liked a lot more with the different sections and the fluting, which I had a go at, and we'll talk about that. But yeah, that didn't turn out too bad either. So I do have a pair. There are two, left and right obviously. They are made of aluminium. They are fully articulated. They move around. I think I would work on getting them a bit more articulated if I did them again, but as you can see, they have pretty good movement. Like the wrist there can move around, the fingers all flex obviously, but it's more like this wrist movement and flex and bend that I really love, and it was fun to try and work out, because I went into this not having made any kind of metal gauntlets before, so they actually turned out pretty good for a first go. Thumb plate hinges over here. I'll talk you through it. We'll just kind of go through how I made them. Basically how I started was looking at loads of patterns online. Where's my patterns? Let me just find them. Always good to keep all your patterns, and I keep mine in this folder even though it's messy. It's quite an important thing. You see, I did a lot of experimenting with putting things together, taping, all that jazz to get it right. Let's see. So this is my main pattern that I printed out. So I drew all these patterns in Illustrator. They're my own patterns. I used reference that I found online to make these, but it was basically planning them out to get them to work at the right scale. And as you can see, I got these printed out and got them to about the size that I thought would be appropriate. You can see they're getting it all right, even the finger length, just so it all scales together correctly. Of course, I didn't really know how this was going to work in metal till I tried it. But I went ahead and got sets of these laser cut in aluminium. So these are 1mm aluminium, and this is how they came. So this is like a finger piece, for example, that turns into one of these. But yeah, they all came like this, raw aluminium. The edges were really great. They were all laser cut. These are brilliant. Like, I would highly recommend, if you're getting pieces cut like this, if you want to do this, try laser cutting, because it's really good. I used a company online called Geometry. They cut all these for me. Here's another piece. That's one of the end finger pieces. One of those guys, which obviously gets a bend and a shape to do that. So yeah, this is how they came, and I just had to hammer them all to shape. Now that of itself sounds very tricky. It actually wasn't. I did it all here on the bench with not a lot else tool-wise than you can find really off the shelf and for not a lot of money. Now, what did I use? Where's my stuff? What? Ah, right. In terms of hand tools, this is pretty much exclusively what I used, apart from some of the more serious shaping. I bought some other things I'll show you in a minute, but this is basically the hand tools that I use. This little hammer with a ball peen end, very, very useful for shaping. This thing did like all the rivets that I did in it was this. All the fluting was done just with this one. Again, you can use what you have basically. So we have a couple of hammers, a few bigger hammers, rubber mallet, very useful for shaping like the contours. All I would do is hit these pieces around a tube, like a steel tube or an aluminium tube, just a little piece, nothing too fancy, and I'm able to get it to shape using this by doing like this. I will say shout out to David Guyton, the author and home blacksmith, who has videos over on YouTube. I'll link him up here. He has a video on how you make a gothic gauntlet with patterns. That was very useful to understand how something like this would go together, so I recommend going and checking out his video. He has a lot of advice on there and patterns that you can actually download and follow. Yeah, go check that out. Other than that, shears just to help trim bits up that need to be. I did my best to get these to the shape I thought they needed to be, but had to round corners, cut bits off, and then these shears can cut through that aluminium like no one's business. And this one was very useful for making the fingers. This is a hand riveter. You pop in a rivet. Oh, there's a stem there. And yeah, you can say hand rivet things, and I'll show you some fingers. Because I actually have another set that's in progress for my companion in this project who's making the robes for us. But I have another set for him which are partially done, and I can show you how these deconstruct. But that's basically hand tools that I use. The only specialized tool I use per se was this guy, which is a punch. It's a metal punch. So it basically puts a lot of force into this section here to punch a hole. You can put in different dies and punches, which you can see in here. And yeah, you can really punch really accurate holes. You can see that there. It goes into the little die section there. And that was really handy for doing all these holes for the rivets on here. I punched all the holes using this power punch. Again, you could do it by hand or you could drill them, but that is just... drilling and stuff is a lot of effort. I recommend if you're going to have a go, get something like this. It'll make your life a whole lot easier. So here's the ones that are in progress, and this is what they look like before they are attached to the gloves. So you can see I've got the wrist and arm section here all riveted together. I've got this knuckle section all together too, ready to be riveted on. But yeah, that's how I get it. I added these straps on the inside just to help hold them to the glove, because they're not riveted to the glove. Through the glove, I didn't do that. And strap that I made to go on the back with a little buckle. Yeah, I could add like a little retainer or something on there to help that. But yeah, that is what they look like. Outside of that, for the thumb piece, which you can see attached on the side over here, these are just door hinges, or just hinges. I literally got them in the UK. It's a store called Lidl. They had some little door hinges. They are steel, but they got like a brass finish on them. But I just cut them to shape, cut out the little middle section of it, and then riveted it in the right place, and that adds a lovely little thumb hinge. Just use what you've got. That's the rule of this kind of thing, and I think it blends in and looks pretty good. I just had to shorten the post and everything, rivet that over on the end. If you got hammers, you can rivet something over. It's nice and easy. Now, all the fingers look like this. So this is a little finger, I think. Oh no, index right. Good job, I label everything. But yes, so it's strips of leather, and then I use that rivet gun, that blue handle rivet gun that I have, is what I use to rivet all these to the leather. So I had to know what the distance was in the riveting of the holes that I had, so I had to mark all that out, work it out per finger. But then you get this lovely flexible finger. Yeah, these are really beautiful in their like pointiness. But yeah, so you get a lovely flexible finger, and then this leather is just glued to the glove. If you like, you can rivet through the ends or rivet some of these through the fingers. Well, I haven't done that. I may do it because I'm getting a bit of separation. So this finger, for example, has come off, so I need to re-glue that. But yeah, I might address that in the future with putting a couple of rivets in just to help hold it all together, because it is metal and fabric, you know, so it's they don't like to go together very easily. But yeah, as you can imagine, there's a lot of fingers, a lot of rivets, a lot of digits to do on this kind of thing. So yeah, there's a lot of riveting. So each one's hand riveted and then hammered over. So in here, this little bit up in here has been hammered over to be a bit flatter, which helps the fingers lie flat enough. They have to lie completely flat, but like flat enough to sort of sit well. Most of the time your hand's kind of resting at a curved kind of, no, you never really like that a lot for some reason. You know what I mean? So they don't have to be completely flat, but yeah, it was a lot of work. These ones have been painted, so I painted them in a chalk paint and then just buffed the highlights to get the effect, and then the rest of the effect on the gauntlets is done with paint. Yeah, that's the ones that are in progress. I'm just waiting on some gloves to do his ones of those. Waiting on some gloves to do his ones of those. But yeah, these are the ones that I have done already. So I guess I'll show you it on. They look really great on. Let's have a look. These have just the best sound to them. Like, I know other people who make the metal ones. Like, I know Adam Savage has a pair of these that were made by Crop Circle, and yeah, they also comment on the sound that these make being amazing. But yeah, there it is, on. As you can see, they are incredibly creepy when they're on. They look really, really cool. That amazing sound. I love them. I love these things so much. I'm really proud of how they turned out. As you can see, the movement's a bit clunky, junky. It's kind of creepy. It kind of adds to the character, and I feel like when I'm performing this, you know, I'll just kind of be real creepy with the movement and kind of work with that jerky notion. But there's the flexibility. It could be a bit better, and that could have been improved by when these are riveted. So the front one has a hole. The thing underneath, which you can see here, has a slot. As you can see, that allows that to move. You can see the wear, which is kind of nice on these. But yeah, you could improve that by improving the positioning of the slots and extending the slots. You know, that's the kind of thing that all the old armourers of old would have known about and perfected. But for a first go, I didn't think I did too bad. These are pretty flexible, they look great. Yeah, like I said, on top of this, this is a chalk paint onto the aluminium. The chalk paint sticks relatively well. I've always found, it's this one actually, it's a blackboard paint. This one, yeah, it just sticks really well to just about anything, and it sticks well enough to this. You're never going to get a very good coat when things are good rubbing, and you can see on some of the pieces we're rubbing through to the aluminium already, just in the basic movement of this, and I'm cool with that, because that's just kind of the thing. You'd only get a different thing if you did like an anodizing. Even then it would still wear. With steel you can do proper heat treating, which will colour it, but you can't do that with aluminium so easily. So I'm happy with the paint, and it wears off. The more it wears off, the more they just get worn in, and if ever I didn't quite like how that was, just add some more paint. So obviously with aluminium, it doesn't rust either, not like steel. So all this orange effect on here is all added. So this was all done using different paint and rust powders. The little patches of rust, there's some cool ones up here. You see these guys here. That's done with rust powders and a bit of gel super glue. So it really adds that little texture. You just put a bit of glue down, sprinkle on the dust, pat it down a bit, and you get these really cool natural bits of rust, and like on the knuckles up here. That's really cool too. Yeah. The kind of paint that works well on these is oil paint. I didn't do it for these because I was in a bit of a rush to get them done. But now that the deadline's kind of passed and we didn't quite do it, I might go back and add some oil paint. Oil paint adds a really lovely greasy look to this kind of thing. Makes it look really like it's been oiled and oiled over time. I do kind of need to go in and do the inside of these as well. I did a bit of weathering on the inside of the gloves, but they need a bit knocking back a little bit because they look a bit too new. You can see those straps there. There's one that goes here and one here. That keeps it tight to my wrist, and then all the fingers, there's rivets that go from the top of the knuckles here down into the leather of the fingers, which are then glued to the glove. So this front section is all attached, and then this back section is held on by the straps. And then you got the one at the back that's done up here, and that keeps it on the forearm. I believe the ones in the movie had a clamshell part of this to protect the underside. I may add that in future. It's just a big disc of metal, like cylinder, that I just need to add here. Again, I can do that. Not really necessary, but when we have Nazgul robes covering the top part of this and down here, I think we'll be fine. It's going to be kind of prowling around anyway. I did have to do a couple of solutions. We'll take this off. Getting a bit hot in here. I do think the costume is going to be very hot to wear, and by all accounts, anyone who has a Nazgul has said it's very warm to wear. Some of the cooler parts of this are this knuckle plate. Do I have one? No. The knuckle plate itself is actually made from, I don't know if this is the right size, but a piece this shape. I figured this out geometry wise so that it would all bend and fold to make the knuckle plates. I can't remember how or why I thought of this, but it was just like work in development with these paper templates to make that. So that folds all together, and then I had an interesting solution to try and fix them together. Now, ideally I would have just welded down the front, and if it was steel, it's a very easy weld to do down the front. I don't have the right kind of welder to weld aluminium, and I don't know anyone who does. I asked around. No one had the right welder to weld these front bits, so this is actually done with some metal epoxy, which I think is in here. Yeah. It's called Quick Steel, and it's supposed to have kind of bond to metal and be high temperature. It was alright. It worked fine. It didn't set in the time that it said. It said it's supposed to be like an hour set. It really didn't, and it was taking ages to go off. And I actually put them in the oven. I actually baked it because I thought it would be like a reaction that reacts to heat. You know, heats up when it reacts. I thought if I added heat, it might speed that up, and it did. So I popped these in the oven at like 100 to 150 Celsius or something for about an hour, and it really cured these up. So that's how these are all fixed together at the front with the bending. They've all been bent together, and then that epoxy put in, and it works pretty well. Same with the spikes here. They're glued on, and then some of that epoxy is put around the edge just to blend it in and make it look like a weld, which I think works pretty well. They do look really blended in there. Like I said, it was just interesting. It was an interesting project to work on. Very interesting, different challenges. The fluting here was also very interesting. I thought this was going to be impossible. When I looked at it, I was like, I can't do that. Like it looked like it was going to be kind of impossible to do, because you go, I'm not an armor person. I can't flute metal into the shape that I want. Turns out I can, and it was quite easy actually. I might be able to explain it. Let me see. Basically, what I did to help me with this is buy a load of old masonry chisels. Now these are all used, got them on eBay. You can see they're pretty blunt when it comes to the end. they are pretty blunted off, which was great. I didn't want them to be sharp, because if you're sharp, you're going to cut through metal. I wanted them to be a little blunt, but I did end up sharpening some of these a little bit using a sharpening stone. It's very easy. Again, like I said, I didn't want to get them razor sharp. I just wanted to improve them a little bit. So I used that, and then, yeah, we ended up with a nice sort of pointed rounded. This was how I shaped these parts. So basically, all you do is you put where you want it to bend on the ridge of this, and then using that ball peen hammer, hitting, so if it's on here, you hit just to the side so that this pushes up from behind and stretches the metal. It's pretty much, it is kind of how fluting's done, but just obviously when people do it for real, I say for real, it's a much more refined process than that, and I was kind of happy with the rough finish on these anyway, because they are nasty Nazgul. But yeah, I just went along and added all these. Again, it was the patterning that allowed me to make all these line up, so this continues as they overlap. So that was all planned to begin with, really, in the shaping of it. Very important to have your patterns be good to start with. Not that you can't adjust, but I had kind of planned for them to sit. And these parts don't flex too much. The forearm doesn't really flex, just enough to add a little bit. Again, I could improve that by extending the slots, but this part really doesn't need it. But yeah, it turns out the fluting was actually rather fun to do, and when it starts to look like how you wanted to, it really adds to that morale with the project, because I'm going, this is going really well. And it really didn't take too long, like probably an afternoon doing all of these, fluting for all of it. So yeah, it wasn't too bad at all. That's basically it, really. There's a quick overview of how I did my Nazgul gauntlets. Like I said, they were really fun to really get to grips with, and like a different discipline to work with in shaping metal to fit around a body, especially a hand. The most like intricate part of a body to get to work. That was really interesting, and I'm glad that I decided to make these myself rather than just buy and mod a pair. You can buy stuff. There's ones online. I wasn't happy with how accurate they were in terms of the reference that I'd seen for the real Nazgul gauntlets, especially the Witchking ones, and the ones made by Crop Circle, because they are like the OG and best maker of these gauntlets, and did all the research in the beginning. So like, kudos to them, and yeah, thanks to them that we're able to get good ideas on what those things are, how they work, what they look like. And I was able to use lots of reference photos of theirs to help get mine. Yeah, just super pleased with how these have turned out. And you may look at them, like I said, and go, man, I can't do that, that's ridiculous. But you could absolutely hand cut all these plates out of aluminium. Like, it would take longer, and you'd have to be more accurate, and then you'd have to file them, you know, everything. If you spend a bit of money to do the laser cutting, you save a bit of time in the hand finishing of all the plates. So that's where I wanted to save my time. I still had to do everything, shape everything, bend all the fingers. That was non-trivial. I had to get all these to a curve. I actually used one of David Guyton's tricks. Made my own swage block. So actually my dad helped me make this. This is just a pipe cut in half and embedded in a block of wood. And then we use a round that fits inside the inside there, just with a little bit of gap. So would have got a flat finger, place it like this, pop that on top and whack it down. So you have to kind of shape it, whack it a few times to get it round, and that's how you get the finger pieces. And there are quite a lot per hand, as you can see. And yeah, I've actually done 6 glove sets worth of fingers since starting. So yeah, that is difficult. That was a long slog. Again, it's just setting aside afternoons and just putting some programs on and going ahead. Just gotta do the grunt work sometimes if you want to do it. But yeah, like I said, on the face of it, this looks very unapproachable. But this is my first set of gauntlets, so I think if you can make them look like this on your first go, like, anyone can do it. Yeah, I do recommend, if you're thinking about giving it a try, give it a try. You're going to end up with something that looks kind of like this, and I think that's worth it. I think they look fantastic. Like I said, I don't have any fancy tools per se. There's no armor making tools here other than a few hammers. I was literally using old bits of tube, so I'd bend all the hand plates like around this guy. And then we got a few varying different types. So these are really handy just to, if you're going to shape things, you can press like around. The aluminium's very soft, so it bends nice and easily. Of course, if you're doing steel, that would be a whole lot different and would take a lot more effort. But yeah, 1mm aluminium like this, very soft, very easy to bend. So I think it's about time to wrap up, guys. I hope you enjoyed hanging out today talking about Nazgul gauntlets. These, like I said, I'm very proud of these. I think they turned out great, and they're going to make a fun addition to this costume. I've just done a video on swords. There's one here. Wait. These are wooden Nazgul swords that I just made, so if you want to see how I did that, go check that out. They have you can see it got kind of a similar paint job, making it look like old metal, but this is wood. This is all epoxy wire and resin, and yeah, this is some PVC spikes on there. But as you can see, with a bit of effort, you can make it look like metal, and I think these absolutely give that metal vibe. I'm quite proud of this crossguard. That really looks like old hammered metal. You have to trust me, it ain't. It ain't. Yeah, do go check that out. Hope you enjoyed hanging today, and I will see everyone in the next video. So, till then, take care. Bye, guys.
Narsk. Narsk. Narsk.